Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Wingfield. I'm a Program Officer with the BRS Secretariat and also one of the leads of the Plastic Waste Partnership. I'm sorry that I can't actually see you through video today. There are some issues with the WebEx platform and it is not allowing any of us to share our videos. So you will, though, however, see the presentation, and that will be the main source of information. So as long as you can see that, then I think we're in good stead. So welcome to this first information session, which is really to kick off the third round or third call for proposals under the Basel Convention Plastic Waste Partnership Pilot Program. We have one webinar this morning, and there will be another webinar for those in a different time zone on Thursday afternoon. We will most likely also follow up with additional webinars over the coming months with further information on completing the application forms for pilot projects. But today, really, the aim is to give you a general overview of how to apply and how these process of selection and implementation works. Right, Emily, just to confirm that you can see that my slide has moved. I assume everyone can see my second slide. Okay, so just moving on to give you an overview of the partnership itself. So the Basel Convention Plastic Waste Partnership was established in 2019. And it really was a parallel action to the adoption of the plastic waste amendments to the convention. So really, this partnership goes hand in hand with the amendments. It's really to assist parties and other stakeholders towards the environmentally sound management of plastic waste at the global, regional, and national levels. And primary importance is to prevent and minimize the generation of plastic waste. So the partnership has been going now for 5 years. It's established 4 project groups that work on different aspects of the waste management hierarchy related to plastic waste, in addition to transboundary movements of plastic waste. There's quite a strong membership. We have at the moment over 300 representatives of more than 150 entities. So when I say entities, I mean that includes parties, non-parties, non-governmental organizations, intergovernmental organizations, industry, and academia. Our donors have been very generous, and this is one of the reasons that we're able to launch a third round or third call for proposals. You'll see the donors captioned there on the screen, and there you can also see the project groups that I've just referred to. So just to give you an idea of the size of the pilot project program, and this is really one of the main activities of the partnership. The first call for proposals was in 2020, so just a year after the partnership began, and that followed by a second call, which was in 2022. Now, with those 2 calls, we received over 300 proposals or 300 applications for funding, and of that total 300, there are now 38 pilot projects being implemented. And you can see they're in 50 countries globally. Okay, let me see if I can move to the next slide. There we go. So this just gives a snapshot of some, not all, of the projects according to the different regions. Those are color-coded there. As Emily mentioned, you will receive this PowerPoint presentation after the webinar. So moving forward to how to submit proposals. Well, just to give you an idea of the general parameters of the program, there is a quite detailed modalities document, which really should be the guiding document that you use when you're preparing an application for the program. This is available. It's hyperlinked in the presentation. It's also available on the partnership web pages of the Basel Convention website. Now, this will basically guide you through all of the steps, including the eligibility criteria for the program, how to submit your proposals, what is the process of assessment and selection, and then what to expect if and when your application is accepted. So just in terms of the main highlights, it's a 3-month application period, which has already begun. It began on the 30th of January, and it will run through to the 30th of April. So for those of you attending the BRS COPS, you'll note that this the deadline is in the middle of the COPS, basically. The proposals that will be accepted are for national projects. We accept projects for a value of $50,000 to $180,000 US, and this is for 12 to 24 months of duration. For regional projects, we're accepting projects, and this is, of course, when I say regional projects, for 2 or more countries in one region. We accept proposals for between $200,000 and $500,000 US, and an anticipated implementation period between 18 to 24 months. It's also welcomed for the project partners to offer in-kind or financial contributions, and these should be well reflected in the pilot project application form. Now, when you're preparing your proposal, it's very important to show that the proposal that you're submitting has great relevance, of course, to the Plastic Waste Partnership and the environmentally sound management of plastic waste. Secondly, it's important to show that you meet the eligibility criteria for the proposals and the proponents. I'll explain a bit more about that on the next slide. And then last, and very importantly, it's important to use the proposal template and accompany it with the appropriate documentation. So in terms of the eligibility criteria, we accept proposals from the list of entities written on the screen. So we're accepting from both parties to the convention and non-parties to the convention, from Basel and Stockholm Convention regional centres, and from not-for-profit entities that have observer status under the convention. It's important to note that projects should benefit either developing country parties or parties with economies in transition. In some cases, we do, depending on the donor who is offering the funding for the program's round, we may also have to apply additional donor specifications. And very importantly, proposals must be accompanied by a letter of endorsement or support from the focal points of the parties in which the project is to be implemented. Now, for those of you new to the convention, it's important to note that there is an area on the Basel Convention website where focal points are listed for each country that is party to the convention. And this is a good reference point for you because you will need to ensure that you receive a letter of endorsement or support from that focal point, and you're able to submit that together with your application before the deadline. Right, so this slide gives an overview of the submission and selection process. So what's important to note at the application period is that a proponent will be the one submitting the pilot project application. The proponent could be the same as the implementing partner or could be different, but there can only be one proponent and one implementing partner. So the proponent or implementing partner develops the project proposal, and as I mentioned, the proposal is then endorsed or supported through a letter by the Basel Convention focal point. The next stage, and this stage would be after the 30th of April for this funding round, will be the screening and assessment of the proposals. So the first step is for the Secretariat to screen all of the proposals received. So for the first round, for example, we received 188 proposals. So you can imagine this does take quite a bit of time to go through each of the proposals, look at all of the eligibility criteria, and determine if those have been met. And then for those proposals that have met the eligibility criteria, we then move on to look at the performing a draft assessment of each proposal. The next stage is where the steering group is involved. Now, the steering group of the partnership is made up of the co-chairs of the partnership, in addition to the co-chairs of those 4 project groups. So what happens is the Secretariat submits to the steering group the information on the eligibility of all the proposals received, in addition to a draft assessment of those proposals that are eligible. And we also propose a draft ranking of proposals to the steering group. The steering group meets both electronically and online and discusses the different proposals. And in consultation with their respective project groups, they assess and rank the different pilot projects. Something that's important to note that if someone or one of the co-chairs of the project groups or of the partnership in general has any conflict of interest, for example, there's a proposal submitted related to the country from which they originate, they are excluded from the assessment procedure. Next is when we would notify those successful proponents that their proposals will receive funding. Now, in terms of timing, I would estimate that because the proposals are coming in at the end of April, it takes several months for the assessment process to take place. I would say that we're looking at September, October to be advising the successful proponents of the outcome. We would also, of course, advise those who have not had success, and we can provide feedback if it is requested. So from this September, October time period this year, we would work with the implementing partners for the projects to develop legal agreements, or what we call SSFAs, which are small-scale funding agreements. And these basically are vehicles to allow for transfer of the funds to the implementing partner and to really set the parameters for the project, the implementation plan and the budget. And then from there, the projects will commence. We anticipate at the start of 2026, and the Secretariat continues to support and monitor the project implementation. And then once the project is finished, the Secretariat reports to the donor, develops awareness-raising materials, and of course helps disseminate the results of the projects. An important role of the implementing partner, you'll see on the right of the slide, is of course they are the one in charge of implementing the project. There is just one implementing partner, but there may be many project partners. But the important thing to know is that the implementing partner is the one who will receive the funds for the project. So they are in charge of reporting on the financial and progress outcomes under the project, and they will also provide inputs into awareness-raising materials and then disseminate the results at the end of the project. So just moving on, and I'm sure there'll be many questions, and I'd be happy to respond to those at the end of the presentation. But what we found are some common mistakes and errors in the application process. So the first of which is that the proponent or the implementing partner is ineligible. Now, this is where it's important to remind everyone that proposals can be submitted by parties and non-parties to the Basel Convention, regional centres, as I've mentioned, both Basel and Stockholm Convention regional centres, and not-for-profit entities that have observer status under the convention. We cannot provide funding to any for-profit entities. Another common mistake that we've found in the application process is that proposals don't have the needed support or endorsement. Just to reiterate, projects need to be accompanied by a letter or letters of endorsement from the focal points of each of the countries concerned. Now, these can take quite some time for some countries, so I'd really recommend, if you are planning on submitting a proposal by the end of April, that you contact the project focal points now. And as I mentioned, their information is available on the Basel Convention website. I'd be happy to point you specifically to that if you would like. Next is that the project activities, outputs and outcomes are not clearly described and linked. So it is important. We recommend to use, for example, the theory of change methodology, which really helps you elaborate sort of where you're starting from in terms of assumptions in developing your pilot project proposal, and where you plan to get to through implementing your project. And this, of course, includes what your objectives are, what activities you will develop to achieve which outputs, and ultimately which outcomes. So it's very clever. It's really important to get that linkage between your objectives, activities, outputs, and outcomes very clearly stated in your proposal. Next, there's often an issue with the project budgets. It's very important to clearly enumerate all of the lines in your budget. Now, even for example, a common mistake we see is, for example, if there are a workshop is proposed for a project, and it's just written one workshop, and there's a lump sum figure. We really need to understand more about how you get to the specific costs of the workshop. So, what is the venue hire? How many people are you expecting? What is the cost per head? That sort of information. It's also important to note that we cannot have over 15% procurement items in any one budget. So this means that you cannot outsource the more than 15% of the budget through other entities or other companies. So in terms of tips for successful projects, quite important is to provide information in your application on any administrative or other procedures that need to be followed before initiating the project. We have found for some projects that we've been implementing so far that there's been an internal process, for example, with Ministry of Finance, for them to approve the funds before the same Ministry of Environment starts to implement the project. And in some cases, this process for approval has taken up to 18 months to 2 years. And this was not reflected in the application when it was submitted. It doesn't mean that the application wouldn't have been successful, but it just allows for us to better plan if we have an idea of these internal government procedures that are going to be necessary before you can start implementing at the national level. It's important to clearly explain the roles of project partners and who are the targeted stakeholders. So as I mentioned, there'll be the one implementing partner for the project. If you're going to engage other project partners, please do let us know who they are, how they'll be involved, and importantly, who are the stakeholders that you're really aiming to target with your action. The steering group looks favourably on projects that are both scalable and replicable. So if you have an idea that you would like to try at a smaller scale, perhaps in one country, that could be scaled up for multiple countries or could be replicated in another country, those activities are very warmly welcomed. It's also a good idea to try and secure co-financing if you can. It's not a requirement, but it's a good opportunity if you can to source co-financing, and that again the steering group views that very favorably. It's also important for the steering group to understand really the sustainability of the project. So once the project ends, what activities could be triggered in the future by the pilot project to really ensure the longevity of the results. Another area that the steering group looks for is those who are testing new tools or innovative approaches to ESM of plastic waste. And also it's very important to highlight how your pilot project proposal is relevant to the country where it will be implemented, so to its national policies, strategies, legislation, and so forth. So I will finish there. I imagine there are quite a few questions, so please feel free. I will, Emily, need your help to spot those raising their hands.
Yes, sure.
Thank you so much. But yes, please, any question, no question is too silly, because we find that often there are areas, you know, we haven't thought to explain. So please feel free. I see actually we have Sam Al-Amari. Let me see. Sam, can you take the floor?
Thank you so much, Susan, and for this opportunity and for this informative session about the grant. I am from Sam Al-Ammari from Yemen, the Environment Protection Specialist working at Yemen Family Care Association, a Yemeni NGO that was established in 1976. Unfortunately, we are not yet, we haven't got the observer status of both conventions, Basel or Stockholm. And I would like to know if it is possible to apply for this grant or not. If not, is it possible to apply for the observer status with both conventions or not?
Right. So just to clarify, sorry, you said you're not an observer to the Basel Convention.
Yes, I heard that this is one of the eligibility criteria. Yeah.
Yes. So you will need to do that. What I suggest is that I can put the link in the chat, so you can. Let's see if I can access the chat. I will try to do that, or we can send it out. Oh, I can, yes. Or we can send it out with the presentation. But I suggest that you apply for observer status under the Basel Convention, which is simply a matter of filling out a form. I'm sending you the link to that now. And at the same time, prepare your application form. And when you have your observer application ready, just send it to us. But still use the time to prepare your actual pilot proposal as well. Does that answer your question? Are you there? Okay, I can't, but what I'm doing at the moment is I am putting in the chat, so everyone will be able to see it. This is the link to the application for observer status under the Basel Convention. I see, Sam, you're muted. Hang on one second. There's a few challenges with the platform today. I do apologize.
Thank you so much. I heard your clarification, and I'm really I can't find any word to thank you. Have you shared the link for application? I didn't
Yes,
find it.
it's in the chat. You'll see it says admission of observers, and you just click on that link.
Okay, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Okay, so let's look for next. I see that we have Susan. Please, Olofse, please. Feel free to take the floor. Can you hear me, Susan? Okay. For some reason, I'm not able to hear Susan. Okay, I'll move next on to Solomon Bona. Please, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Solomon Bona from Sierra Leone, Basel Convention, focal point. I don't know if there are guidance document towards this project proposal, and then also I also want to understand if the project requires the theory of change methodology to be included. I will want to know what aspect of the theory of change, and then also on the co-financing area, what sort of co-financing is required from parties, because it's really on the co-financing, as you said, it's not compulsory, but if a country wants to co-finance, what area of co-financing will the project require? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Those are all excellent questions. In terms of the guidance, I'm putting in the chat right now the link to the third call for proposals, and on that webpage you will find the modalities document, which is really the most important document you can use. The modalities document also has the application form included. So I really recommend to be guided by that document. If you have any questions completing the application, as I said, we might have some webinars in the upcoming period to really help proponents work through the application process. And you've mentioned the theory of change methodology. Indeed, we recommend that you follow that methodology. It's not explicitly asked for in the application form, but it's really good to just, it's a way to really plan out your application, I would say. And for us, the very important steps that we'd like to see demonstrated in the proposals are that you've tied the objectives that you have for the project closely with the activities that you plan, and for the respective activities, you're being very clear about what the outputs and deliverables are, and ultimately what outcome will be achieved by the project. So it's really just that chain of that link, those links in the chain that we want to see. You asked about co-financing and quite rightly mentioned that it isn't a requirement. Something that we've seen in some of the successful proposals has been that, for example, if it's been a government partner, they've offered to cover the costs, for example, for a project manager to support the project, or to cover the costs for a workshop, things like that. But as it's not actually required, there isn't a minimum amount of co-financing needed. Also, in-kind contributions are appreciated. It's really up to the project partner, to the implementing partner. Okay, so let's move on. Solomon, I'll just unmute you again. Did that answer the questions that you have?
Sure. It's okay. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, lovely. And please feel free to email me with any other questions. You'll have my email through the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Right. Now, next up, I will go to, sorry, I'm just going in the order that they appear on my screen. Givi, please. Actually, I see now that Givy has actually written in the chat, and I will come to the questions in the chat, but I called on Givy, so I'll read out their question. So it says, in a modality document, there is section 14, which talks about the development of new tools to address plastic waste or tackle a new aspect of the environmentally sound management of plastic waste. Would it be possible to talk about that more? Sure. So I mentioned that the steering group is looking for those projects that are testing out new tools, for example. If there is new guidance available, of course, there's the technical guidelines on plastic waste under the Basel Convention. It's a possibility to test those guidelines. There's other tools developed. There's so many different initiatives right now. If there's a new tool that's been offered through another entity to test, an inventory methodology, so forth, that is a good opportunity through a pilot project to test those new tools. We've also had, for example, in the past, different types of innovative methods for collection of plastic waste. There's a project at the moment in Vietnam, which is looking at litter traps in a river. So that's one example of an innovative technology. Also different approaches to collection services. So for example, we have another project in Kiribati, which is looking at a seed exchange for plastic waste collection methodology. So just different types of innovative thinking, innovative tools. Pilot projects are really as an opportunity or fertile ground for these types of new innovations to be tested, and I think that's something that the steering group really wants to see supported. Next, I will take the question from Emmanuel, and then I'll look at the questions in the chat. So please, Emmanuel, you should be able to access the microphone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. Emmanuel, an observer. Now, I've realized from the presentation that observers would need a letter from the focal point in their respective countries.
Yes.
Now, as an observer already with the convention, is it possible to obtain an official letter or document from the convention so that you submit to the focal point here, so that it doesn't become an obstacle? Oh, go and come, I can't find your status online, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so which country would you be looking at, may I ask?
I'm in Ghana.
Ghana, okay. So
Yes.
what we can do, there isn't an official letter or anything like that, but we can send a letter. Well, I could connect you with the focal point through an email, for example, and explain that,
All right.
that you are applying through the pilot project program and would need that letter of endorsement. And then really it's up to yourself and the focal point to discuss the project that you're proposing and whether or not they agree to support. And when I say support, it's not to give any sort of financial or support, it's just to really endorse it. So contact
I
me.
agree.
Contact me, please, and I will. I can certainly link you with the focal point.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Next, I see Anano. Please go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Thank you for the presentation first. I have actually two questions, and I'm almost sure about the answer of the first, but won't hurt to confirm.
Yes.
I was wondering if a party can submit an application and have a non-for-profit implementing entity as a partner who does not have an observer status.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, sure. And well, to answer that question first, that is possible. The implementing partner does not have to have observer status. We do encourage it though. But yes, you're right. A party can be the proponent of the proposal, and then the implementing partner that they propose could be an NGO without that observer status. But I really would encourage them to apply for the observer status. It's not a difficult process, and it just helps in terms of future dissemination, things like that. Sometimes we invite implementing partners to our conference of the parties meetings. It just, and that means that they're able to participate and so forth. So I do encourage them to apply in any case for observer status, even if they are the implementing partner. It's so that's your first question. Anano, does that cover your question?
Thank you. And I have the second one as well. Well, it's regarding the form of due diligence. There is one of the exclusionary criteria, whether there is a copy of incorporation document available publicly, and same goes for the audited financial statements. And I was wondering, if we can apply these documents as well with our application, is that sufficient? Because we don't have, for example, on our website these documents uploaded.
Yeah, I would, if you don't have them publicly available, I'd recommend to send them along with the application and the due diligence form. Yes.
So that would be okay, right?
I believe so. It's up to our legal team, but I know in the past that's been accepted.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Great. All right. So next I'll go to Anna Stoyanovska, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Anna from North Macedonia. My question is basically related to the previous one. I heard that you mentioned to Sam earlier that we can, because we also don't have observer status, but we can make the application. But I read that basically the confirmation of the observer status is made on COP, which is after the deadline of the application. So does it mean that you will take into consideration only application for the observer status without confirmation from the Conference of Parties?
Yes, absolutely. So basically the steps are that you would make the application for observer status. We would come back to you if we need any additional information.
Okay.
If we have the information we need, we would give you, we would send an email giving you provisional observer status.
Okay.
And then at the COP, it's confirmed. So it's really, even though basically every 2 years, any observers that have been admitted in that intersessional period are confirmed, but you are able to do activities as an observer in the meantime. That's fine, as long as you get that provisional acceptance. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so I see there are quite a few messages in the chat, so I might just address those while we're waiting to see if anyone has any more questions. So first of all, can you have this presentation? Yes, the presentation will be shared with you after the webinar. In addition, you'll see my email on the last slide, and it's also in the chat. Now, Anano, you'd already asked this question about a party submitting the application but having a not-for-profit implementing partner. Yes, you can, and we do encourage the implementing partner to get observer status. Okay. We've already covered the observer status to the Basel Convention. Yes, I put the link in the chat. Okay. Right, and again, observer status, that is good. Bimala, hello, how are you? So you are asking about observer, if you've been granted observer status before to the Basel Convention, that's it. You have observer status. You don't need to apply again. Next question from Susan. Does South Africa qualify to apply given the USA funding being part of the pot and President Trump's retraction of all financial support? Yeah, that's something, of course, that many international organizations are having to reckon with at the moment. But no, you're absolutely eligible to apply. The donor base is broader than just the United States. So please do apply. Next up, we have the work plan for project groups list topics and some kind of prioritization. If you could walk us through the work plan structure and how one should be reading the information. Thanks. Okay, so Chaudhry, I'm very, very happy that you've looked into the project group work plans. I'd say that really these can guide you in terms of the subjects. I wouldn't worry too much about the prioritization within the work plans. So the work plans themselves are activities that the partnership itself is going to do. So, for example, the work plans for this biennium, they're developing a number of knowledge briefs on different topics, and the work plans list the different topics that they're looking to develop these knowledge briefs on. Now, if there is a topic, for example, within the work plan that your project will relate to, that's great, but I wouldn't worry too much about the structure of the work plans. It's more about the different themes within the work plans that I think you should be focusing on. Okay, so Suzanne, you've said if partners are included, does it mean that they cannot be allocated more than the 15% procurement limit? Yes, this is a tricky one. It is possible to do grants to partners within the agreements. Often what will happen is we'll ask for a budget breakdown if there is going to be a grant to a partner. So a budget for that actual partner. Something we've done with a bigger project this round is that there are 4 countries involved, and of course, each country needed to have its own budget stream, but the implementing partner has just reported one budget and is monitoring the expenditure themselves, and then any sort of hiring, etc., for the other officers is done through the agreements with themselves, but they maintain the control of the reporting to the Secretariat with the one budget. I hope that explains. It can be a bit tricky. Okay, so let me see. How much does it take to get an approval for the observer status? Oh, how long does it take? Normally, it's a very quick process because we're right before the COPs and there are many, many observer applications coming in. I know that part of the office is very overwhelmed at the moment, but it should normally take no longer than a few weeks at this busy time. But I really urge you to just go ahead and do the observer status application as soon as possible and then continue developing your application. Okay, let me see. I've sent my email. Sorry, I'm just looking through here. Presentation. We will share the presentation through email. Could an NGO apply alone, or should it be in a consortium? You can apply alone. That's no problem, as long as you have observer status to the convention. A consortium is welcome as well. It depends on the scope or breadth of your project, if you're including multiple countries. I would say that the important thing to note in that situation with a consortium is that there is that one lead entity who will be really responsible for reporting on the project, who will be the one receiving the funding. But of course, you can have other project partners in your consortium. That's no issue. Okay, and Chaudhry has asked, where can one find information on the ongoing projects? Well, if you go through to the link that I have put in the chat already, you'll be able to find information, but let me just paste it in again, and you'll see. Here we are, pilot projects. So if you click on the link I've just put in the chat, it will take you to the main pilot project page, and then you can scroll down and you can see the list of the 38 projects. There is also, a pilot project map, which I think gives a very good idea of coverage of pilots, of projects managed by BRS conventions. That's also good to look at as well. And I put, and I put that in the chat for you as well. So I have another question. After completing the observer status application, should we send it to you? You can certainly send it to me. It will go to my colleague if otherwise, but I can certainly make sure that it's received by the right person. That's no problem. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. What I might do, as we've got a little bit of time left, if I can figure out how to do this, is to show you where you can find information on the focal points for each country. If you'll just bear with me. And please feel free to ask any more questions. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how to, here we go, stop, okay. So I think I can share. Emily, I might need your help. Can you see the web page?
Not yet.
I haven't managed to share it yet.
Window,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to do that.
So normally it's
I see it now.
yeah, okay.
That's good. Thank you. All right. 1 second. No, that's not going to work. Hang on. You'll just bear with me. I think it's quite useful for me to show you exactly where you can get the information on the focal point of the convention. Okay, here we are. Right, so countries.
Have you tried, Susan, sharing your screen or not yet?
Yes, I'm just going to try now.
Okay.
Here we are. It's not going to be very. You'll be able to see the chat
Okay.
as well.
Oh, good. But
you
we can
see it now. Yeah. Okay. So just to show everybody here, this is the Basel Convention website. So it's basel.int. And here you may have already seen this. This is, of course, the advertisement for the third round of pilot projects. Now, where to go to look for your focal points is to go to countries and country contacts. It's taking a bit of time, but here we go. You can either click on the map. Doesn't normally take this long, but and then, for example, we had the gentleman before was asking about Ghana. So you would simply drop down to Ghana, and here you will see, here's the competent authority focal point for the Basel Convention. So it's all the same person right there. So you can do that for all the different countries that are parties. You can see listed here. Next, in terms of your admission for observer status, you would go to procedures, and here you are, admission of observers. And this explains the process, but really it's simply to use this application form and to submit it to the Secretariat. And then next, just to show, this is where the partnership web page is. So you go to implementation. It's quite a busy website, I admit. There's a lot going on, but go down to plastic waste and plastic waste partnership, click on that. And here you can see all the information related to the partnership. And then if you click on pilot projects here, and you can see these are the previous pilot projects. And then here, third call for proposals. And what is especially important is this modalities document here. And that will really explain everything that I've covered today. Okay, let me go back to the chat here. Is it possible to submit more than one project from two different organizations from the country? Yes, absolutely. You can submit more than one project, no problem. We've had some proponents submit a number of different projects for the same country. So I see Victoria, I'm sorry, I'm muted. Any limits for co-funding resources? No, really. It's not a requirement. It's encouraged, but it's not a requirement. So there's no minimum, there's no maximum. I hope that explains. Then we have Kyunjong. Should the letter of endorsement be signed by the focal point, or can it be signed by anyone from the same department, ministry, or focal point? It really should be signed by the focal point, if possible, please. Is it possible to submit more than one project by two different, we've already covered that. Yes. And then one last question, does the current call have any preferences for applications in terms of project groups, or are all 4 groups equally welcomed? All are equally welcomed, I have to say. It might be a good idea to look at the types of projects already submitted that have already been selected. Consider if there are any areas that haven't already been addressed by a pilot project. That could be a way to go about things. But no, there's no project group that is valued more than the other. No, all are welcome. And there we have, is it possible for one organization to be part of multiple applications? Yes, absolutely. That's no problem. All right, so I see that we're nearly reaching the end of our time. I can't, let me see if I can find the participants list again. Here we are. So I'm not seeing anyone asking for the floor. Right, so what I might do is wrap up and you have my email. Please feel free to reach out. I see some of you already have, but you have an idea now of, generally speaking, the process for applications. Really, the best advice I can give is to start early, to start immediately, start putting in place, for example, your observer application, start reaching out to your focal points, and of course, start preparing your project application. And please approach me with any questions. Unfortunately, it's not possible if we do receive the application, we're not really able to review it and then come back to you after the fact. So just because of the sheer volume of applications we receive. So I encourage you to start working on it now, and then in the process of developing your application to reach out. Okay, I see one more question. Can we apply for activities we applied for from other funds but are not funded yet? I'm not sure whether they will be funded. Yeah, and you can, but we'd really be grateful if you can be honest about sort of the status of your applications for other funds. We do work with, for example, those other funding mechanisms, particularly administered by UNEP, by Jeff. We do have a cross-referencing procedure to ensure that we're not duplicating any activities, and it really helps if you include any information in that regard in your application. All right, I will leave it there. As I said, please feel free to reach out. Oh, sorry, what is the maxi and the mini level of the fund? I take it you mean the minimum and maximum you can apply for. So for national projects, the minimum is 50,000, and you can go all the way up to, I believe it's, let me just double check this, I don't want to give the incorrect information. 50,000 all the way up to 180,000. And then for regional projects, it's from 200,000 to 500,000. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Please feel free to get in touch and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.